I'd taken Seven Brides, Seven Brothers, I wouldn't have been able to do SpongeBob SquarePants the musical, which was, a dodgy historical time in my life.
Hi guys, welcome to episode 4 of Interval Conversations. I'm joined today by West End and touring performer and now casting agent, Mr. Leon Kay. Leon, how are you doing?
Hello. I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm very good. Welcome to the podcast.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm enjoying all the art house memorabilia on the wall.
Oh yeah, like rest of the room is. We'll give a little bit of it. Starry Night. Let's show. Yeah. So then the rest. That's a bit of backstage tour for everyone else on this podcast. But yeah, rest of my flat has just got loads of leaflets and stuff around as well.
Oh, great. Showbiz house.
Showbiz house.
Yeah.
So, Leon, would you like to tell everyone how did you get your start in professional theatre?
How did I get my start in professional theatre? How did I get my start? So basically, I went to drama school. So while I was doing amateur dramatics quite a lot actually in Halifax and Hebden Bridge and Mytholmroyd, and I don't know why Mytholmroyd. I lived in Hipperome. It was probably the worst place to get to. But
that's about a half-hour car journey, isn't it?
Yeah, they just seem to be doing good shows. Ironically, I never did a show in Brighouse, which is really weird. So I know. So I started doing I've gone to the Amdram thing. This is very important because this is how I actually got into theatre. So I randomly went to do Brighouse Light Opera Juniors years and years ago with a friend of mine, and I got roped into doing a Christmas musical there. I didn't have a clue what I was doing, and we did a Christmas musical in Brighouse called Holy Joe, and I was a wise guy who was the wise men. It was like 3 wise guys, I can't remember, something Starship Enterprise. Safe to say, it was pretty terrible, and I was probably very terrible. However, one of the girls from there was doing Irene with Halifax Opera Juniors, and they needed some boys, and they'd been rehearsing I think since September. The show wasn't until February, and they were like, we need some boys, will you come along, they'll have you. So I went along, still didn't really know what I was doing, so I went along to Halifax Opera Society Juniors and did Irene. They'd already cast the show, it was just in the ensemble. It was great, with Helen Wigglesworth dragged me there with Sarah McCormick's mum, and yeah, I had a lovely time. So then from there I was Catherine Beverley was with Caroline Beverley, because Caroline Beverley was the Irish mum, was like, you should go to Sandra Whiteley's. So I went to Sandra Whiteley's, and I was like, oh my God, there's the whole theatre thing I didn't even know about. And ironically, when I was doing Opera Juniors, this is my claim to fame, guys, Hattie were doing The Wizard of Oz. Was it The Wizard of Oz? Yeah, they were doing The Wizard of Oz at Hattie, and I auditioned for it, for the role of the Scarecrow, and Hattie got back to me and said that I couldn't even be in the show. They didn't even give me an ensemble part. So I basically was like, well, that's pretty rubbish. So then I pursued more time at Sandra Whiteley's, and they ended up doing Bugsy Malone, and then they cast me as Fat Sam. So then I was like, well, do you know what? Go away, Hattie. I don't need you anyway. That's absolutely rubbish. I'm not going to do your Hattie shows. So because Hattie didn't want me, I then ended up auditioning for Calder Valley Theatre Youth's version of Little Shop of Horrors.
Oh, yeah.
And doing that, and I played Seymour in that, and I was like, oh, okay, it must be okay if they're giving me Seymour. So then I kept doing shows with Opera Juniors, Calder Valley. Because I was in Calder Valley, I got roped into doing Oliver at Mytholmroyd, which Ben Smith was in. I believe Ben Smith was Bill Sykes. This is a long time ago.
It was Fagin, wasn't it? I remember seeing a photo of him as Fagin. I could be wrong.
To be honest with you, my memory's terrible, so I can't remember. I do remember that Hattie didn't want me for The Wizard of Oz. It was my first taste of rejection. Anyway, so then I did loads of shows. I did end up going to Hattie. Hattie then eventually wanted me to do a show, so I did Anything Goes with Hattie. And then I ended up then doing the Hattie show and the light opera show. So it was like Hattie did their shows, I think in September, and light opera did theirs in February.
Yeah.
So then I did both shows. So I did like Me and My Girl at Hattie, which was amazing because I can't remember if it was light opera seniors or amateurs. They did. I've gone off on a tangent, but I'm just going to keep going.
It's all right.
They did.
Pass out the runtime.
They did Me and My Girl at the Victoria Theatre, and Neil Hurst.
Opera, yeah.
Light opera. Neil Hurst was Bill Snibson, and Catherine Riley was
Sally.
My brain's gone. Sally.
Yeah.
And I remember watching it and being like, "Oh my god, this is absolutely amazing!" And I was absolutely in awe of Neil Hurst. I was like, "This is the best thing I've ever seen. He's absolutely amazing, and he's amazing. He's such a good performer." So while I was doing Me and My Girl, Bill's playing Bill for amateur for Hattie, I applied for drama schools, and originally I really wanted to go to Mountview. So I applied to Mountview, and I applied to GSA, and I applied to Arts Ed, and I went to Mountview, and they were really lovely, and on the day offered me a place with a scholarship, and I was like, "Oh my god, that's amazing!" Like, I'm absolutely thrilled. But my nan was like, "You've paid your £30 to go to these auditions, so you're gonna go." So I had to went back down to London, and I went to Arts Ed. And as soon as I walked into Arts Ed, I was like, "I need to come to this school. This is like the one." It was amazing. And they offered me a place. I went to GSA, and I didn't even get a recall for GSA. They didn't. I had an argument with the guy, so I did my monologue, then I did my song, and we started talking about Thoroughly Modern Millie, which was on in London at the time, and he was saying that Marty Webb was in it. No, Marty Webb was in Tell Me on a Sunday, and I said, no, Marty Webb was the original, was in Tell Me on a Sunday, but she isn't in that. She's in Thoroughly Modern Millie, and I was like, I know this because I went to watch Denise Van Outen in Tell Me on a Sunday a few weeks ago, and I was down in London, and I saw Marty Webb in Thoroughly Modern Millie. So anyway, we had a big argument. He didn't like me. I don't think I liked him. I'm actually pleased I didn't go there because that actually now doesn't have a very good reputation. And anyway, so I went to Arts Ed, basically. So I did 3 years at Arts Ed, which is in Chiswick in London, which was very fun. And then, very hard, but fun. But then during your 3rd year at Arts Ed, during the 3rd year of Arts Ed, you do your musicals. So we did the musicals we did in our year were Pirates of Penzance, The Card, which is actually quite a good musical. I don't know if you know it very well.
I was offered lead role in Card years ago after I played Dodger.
It's very similar to Harper Sixpence, actually.
Yeah, after I played Dodger, they offered, because the Buttershaw's Junior Society were doing it, but I said, look, I can't do it. I'm already booked in.
I'm booked.
For Hattie, actually. We were doing Footloose. Was it Footloose that year? Yeah, I think it was. Something like that.
Well, at least they wanted you, mate. Yeah. They didn't even want me to be a munchkin or anything. Rubbish. So then we did, what else did we do? Thoroughly Modern Millie, Secret Garden, The Full Monty, and Carousel. But I was in Pirates Penzance and The Secret Garden and The Full Monty. And then through that, I got my first agent who I got my first job with. So my first job I did was South Pacific, which luckily, I mean, I don't know how this happened. This, touch wood, this was the way my performing career worked, and it was fantastic. I finished college on the Friday, and I started South Pacific rehearsals on the Monday. I mean, that is absolutely brilliant timing. So yeah, so I finished on the Friday. I started South Pacific on the Monday. And I did South Pacific for a year on tour, which was, I want to say it was fun, but actually South Pacific is such a boring musical. I used to have so much time off stage that when we were in Nottingham, the dressing rooms in Nottingham have bathrooms, like separate bathrooms with baths.
Like proper baths, or?
A proper bath. So what I used to do is, in Nottingham, I used to run a bath at when the overture started, and it'd be so fully drawn by the end of the first scene. I'd go upstairs and do Bloody Mary, Dames, and Bally High, and then that was it for Act 1. So then I could have a bath for the whole of Act 1, the interval, because I wasn't in the Bally High scene, and then I wasn't on again until Honey Bun, which is the second number in Act 2. So I had a massive break. It was great. I bought a portable DVD player, because this was before the days of external hard drive things, and I used to watch like about 5 or 6 films a week just backstage in my dressing room in my jeans and my sailor hat. So it was quite a boring time, and the show's pretty boring, but I had a good time on the show. I think that's the main thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
I enjoyed the experience.
Yeah. Well, that sort of brings us on to the next question. Can you tell us about your show experiences? Because I know you've done like Billy Elliot, you've been in Les Mis, did Dr. Dolittle, and as I mentioned earlier, there was a certain Sponge show.
Spongebob Squarepants, the musical. So luckily, Dr. Dolittle and Spongebob Squarepants didn't last very long, which is good, because obviously when you sign a contract, you're in that show for whatever the contract length is, and normally it used to be the norm that contract lengths were 52 weeks, excluding rehearsals. Then they changed a lot and was 52 weeks, including rehearsals, and now they've gone the other way, in which they're like rehearsals and then 18 months, which is absolutely crazy. So like everybody who's just signed up for Mary Poppins when it started, so they started rehearsals in September, and they are due to, I think it'll change obviously because of coronavirus, but they're due to finish their contract at the end of February next year. So they've all been doing Mary Poppins for a long time to be stepping in time. Yeah. So my experience, I don't know. So I'll just go in order in my brain, shall I? So did South Pacific on tour. South Pacific had a Christmas break, and I was lucky enough to get cast in a panto over the Christmas break, so I didn't have to have the time off, which a lot of people did. So I flew. I remember we finished I think we were in Belfast. I had to fly from Belfast. We finished on Saturday night. I flew from Belfast to Bristol. Then I got a train from Bristol to Barnstaple, because I was doing panto in Barnstaple, doing Dick Whittington. If you ever go to my nan's house, there's a life-size cardboard cutout of me and Dick Whittington. It's very scary. So yeah, I did that, and then I basically finished that, went on a 2-week holiday to Egypt with my friend Helen Morley, who you've seen. We come to the Circle Lounge a lot. And then I went straight back into rehearsals for South Pacific, where the director proceeded to tell me, because we used to have spray tans once a week on South Pacific, so I smelled like biscuits the whole time. And over Christmas, I'd basically just not been eating very well, because there was Wetherspoons opposite the stage door of this theatre, and you don't have time to cook anything. So I got back into rehearsals, and he said, Leon, you need to sort yourself out, because at the moment you're too fat and you're too white to be in the South Pacific. I was like, fantastic, thank you. So I had to go to the gym and get another spray tan and smell like biscuits again, which was nice. Anyway, so I finished South Pacific, and then I actually didn't have anything booked in when I finished South Pacific. I got offered 7 Brides for 7 Brothers tour. And it started on the Monday. We finished South Pacific on the Saturday, and it started on the Monday, which in principle seemed like a really good idea. But I was on the fence, because I remember speaking to a friend of mine, and I was like, I don't know if I want to go straight into another contract on the road for a year. I want to settle. I want to actually, because I've been in drama school, I'd gone straight on tour. I was like, I need to just get settled in London for a little bit. And I'll never forget this. I was in a Wetherspoons with said friend, and he played me Sobbing Women, full blast on his phone. No, it wasn't even his phone, it was on his iPod, because iPhones, I don't think iPhones, not many people have iPhones there. He played Sobbing Women on his iPod, and he said to me, do you want to hear this every night for the next year? And I was like, absolutely not. He said, well, then don't do 7 Brides, 7 Brothers. So I said no to 7 Brides, 7 Brothers, which I was quite pleased about. Anyway, I came back to London, and then luckily, completely coincidentally, I auditioned for a small production of Sweeney Todd, which was going on at the Union Theatre, which is a small theatre off West End. It's in Southwark. And they offered me Anthony, and the guy who I'd done South Pacific with, called Chris Howell, who played me Sob in Women, I can't speak, Women, got offered Sweeney. So we both ended up doing Sweeney Todd together, which was really fun. So I did Sweeney Todd's, which was fantastic. And then, whilst doing Sweeney Todd, I got a phone call from my agent. This is going to be your favourite bit of this, Nathan.
All right.
So my agent rang me and said, Leon, you've been AV checked. So an AV check is when a casting director rings your agent to check your availability. You've had an AV check for something. I'm going to go back and say no, because I don't know if it's your thing. I was like, what is it for? They were like, they're doing a musical version of Spongebob Squarepants. Now, all the way through high school, I loved SpongeBob Squarepants. I loved it because the humor is quite adult. I really enjoyed it. I was like, oh my God, get me an audition. I'd love to do that job. And it started in January, which was like 3 weeks after Sweeney finished, and I could go home for Christmas and stuff. And anyway, so I auditioned for SpongeBob Squarepants, the musical, and got the job. And yeah, so we started rehearsals in January 2009, 9. Oh my God, it's 11 years ago. I'm so old. 9, I think it was 9. And basically, it was SpongeBob Squarepants, the musical. So basically, Nickelodeon had seen that there was a gap in the market for a musical version of SpongeBob. They'd kind of workshopped it a bit, and it hadn't really worked. They did a little bit on off-Broadway, and it hadn't really worked. And they were like, actually, let's go to the UK and get a UK director. So Alison Pollard, who is the associate director on Book of Mormon, directed SpongeBob. And yeah, man, it was absolutely crazy. So we were rehearsing in Three Mills, which is these studios in London, which are in the middle of nowhere. Big, it's where they like film Saturday Night Takeaway and stuff like that. It's big studio spaces. And I remember on the final day, we went to do our producers run, which is when the producers watch, and Fiery Angel, who were the UK general managers who do shows like The Play That Goes Wrong and things like that, they basically said, guys, Nickelodeon haven't transferred us all the money, so we can't go into the theatre. We were due to go into the theatre on Monday to start tech at the Hackney Empire in London. And so we didn't do the producers run. So we stopped the show, stopped rehearsals. We all went to the pub. The producers from Fiery Angel put a tab on, and we all got absolutely mortal drunk. Anyway, so then at about 5:30, obviously when New York had woken up, because Nickelodeon offices are in the States, he basically said, oh guys, they've put the money in, the show's back on. And we were like, this is mental. So anyway, we did SpongeBob, did Hackney Empire. Then we did Hackney for 2 weeks, and then we went on a tour. It was like the best job ever, because we did Wednesday night, Thursday night, 2 shows Friday, 2 shows Saturday. So it's 6 shows, but we had Sunday, Monday, Tuesday off. And at the time, my girlfriend was doing High School Musical on tour. So every Saturday, I used to drive to wherever High School Musical was, and then spend 3 days with the High School Musical cast, and then come back to the SpongeBob cast. I've actually got some close friends still from High School Musical, even though I never did the show, just because I was there for 3 days a week. Very, very weird. So SpongeBob Squarepants. I mean, we were meant to go on, I think we were meant to do 10 months on tour, and I think we lasted until the first week of May. And we were in Stoke, and my friend Charlie Brunton, who's super stagey. I don't know if you know him. He played Roger Debris in The Producers at Manchester Royal Exchange a few years ago.
Oh yeah, that was a really good part.
Yeah, it was good, wasn't it? He's super stagey, and he went to Broadway to play Trunchbull, and also he's just very stagey, and he's always, his phrase when I worked with him was, when I was in Beauty, because he played Lumiere in Beauty and the Beast, he never stopped talking about it. When I was in Beauty, when I did Beauty and the Beast. Anyway, we went for a breakfast in Stoke, and he's all about spirits and feelings and things. And he dropped his knife and fork down and went, "Oh my God, I've just had a premonition." I was like, "What's your premonition, Charlie?" He's like, we're going to close in Liverpool. And Liverpool was like 3 weeks away. I was like, I mean, I think we're going to close, but I don't think we're going to close in Liverpool. Anyway, we got back to the theatre and the company manager called us down and said, we're going to close in Liverpool. Crazy times. So yeah, we closed the show in Liverpool. Whether he knew and he had some inside information and his agent had told him, or I don't know, but if he did do that, it was a very dramatic dropping of the knife and fork. Yeah. So yeah, SpongeBob SquarePants. I mean, is there any questions you want to ask about SpongeBob before we move on?
So is it similar to the version that was on Broadway recently, or is it completely different?
I've not seen the Broadway production. I think the premise is the same. I know they ditched a lot of the costumes because I think they thought that because our costumes were they weren't skins, but they would you looked like a lobster or you looked like a fish. Ironically, SpongeBob didn't look like SpongeBob, so that was the weirdest thing about it.
I was saying to you earlier, I had a little look at that photo album. That some like the Larry the Lobster costume, you had that looked good. The Mr. Krabs costume, on that surfboard, that looks right. But
I always wind Martin up actually, because Martin did the Harry Potter plays in London from the original cast, and he did it for 3 or 4 years. And I always wind him up and was like, "Do you remember that time you used to dance around the stage singing Ka-ching as a giant crab?" It's just ironic, isn't it? But I think Nickelodeon, they have a product which is loved by adults. I think the problem was that with the costumes the way they were, it looked too childlike. It looked more like you were going to watch Paw Patrol or Lazy Town or something like that, where they didn't want it. They wanted to get the humor, because actually most of our audiences on a Saturday night and Friday nights were like university groups dressed up in costume and hen parties and things like that. It was really weird. So they ditched for Broadway. I know they ditched the costumes. I'm not sure if I think some of the script is the same, but then they got loads of different writers in, didn't they? So they get loads of pop writers in.
Yeah, Panic at Disco. David Bowie.
It looks good though. Yeah, some of the music and some of the numbers look really good, and I think the product is great. It's a shame actually. They were meant to. I don't know if you know this. This might be very boring information for you, but what Broadway have been doing a lot recently is just because the equity rights over here are pretty rubbish compared to America. So what they've been doing is bringing over casts from America, hiring a theatre, putting the set in, bringing them here, filming the show here, and then sending them all back. So so basically, there's going to be, I think it's going online, but Aladdin that was in London, before it closed, they brought over an all-star cast from America for the principals, kept all the English ensemble, and then they filmed the show with the American principals and the English ensemble before the show closed, so that they can sell that version of the show. And SpongeBob was due to go to Theatre Royal Plymouth, not for any public shows, but for basically film it, so then people would be able to buy it as a DVD or see it on telly or something like that. But I think it all fell through in the end. I think Nickelodeon pulled out, or it was too expensive or some reason. But yeah, SpongeBob SquarePants is a musical, man. Absolutely. Yeah. A very good talking point on the CV. Gets brought up a lot if I was going in for auditions, which is quite nice. Yeah. Although, if I'm going to be honest, it was pretty terrible. It was pretty terrible. It was not as terrible as Dr. Dolittle. That was definitely up there as probably the worst.
Well, let's hear about that one then. I'm just loving hearing about old shows.
So that's. I'll continue through the shows. We'll get to Dr. Dolittle. Yeah. If this gets really boring, just let me know. Just say, shut up, Liam. We don't need to hear about you talking rubbish. So finished SpongeBob. Then what did I do then? SpongeBob. Oh, I went to Edinburgh Festival to do a new show called The Great British Soap Opera, which is written by Jake Brunga and Pippa Clearing. Amazing writers. They just wrote Adrian Mole that was in London.
Oh yeah.
So this was one of the first musicals that they wrote, and it was about a soap opera in Manchester. It was really fun. I really enjoyed it. And actually, we were really lucky that after we did our run in Edinburgh, we'd sold so well, the producers wanted to bring it to London. So we did a run at the Jermyn Street Theatre in London as well after Edinburgh, which was really, really nice. So that was fun. Did that for a while. It's actually a good show, guy. I think you can get the rights for it. So, if you've got a nice cast of 6 or 7 and you want to put a show on, it's actually a really good, funny show.
I'll have a look into that.
For you. Have a look in, mate. They've got another one called Jet Set Go as well, which is really funny. It's about an airline, about airline workers. That's really, really good as well. Look at their stuff. They've written some very lovely musicals. And Jake actually has just written a film that's due to come out. It was due to come out this year called Love Sarah with Celia Imrie. Who ironically I ended up getting hired on as a poker advisor, and I ended up getting paid to teach Celia Imrie poker on set. It was very, very strange experience. I don't even know how it came about. It was very weird. It started off as Jake writing a cribbage scene, not getting enough tension in the scene, then ringing me and being like, I need to write a scene around poker, and I need to play poker. So then I helped him I basically taught him how to play poker so he could write the scene. And then the next thing, the producer on me was like, hello, can you come to, this was like months later when they were shooting, he was like, can you come to set and I'll pay you to come and be a poker advisor? I was like, this is very weird. Anyway, so yeah, I did that. That's a very random thing. So yeah, I did Edinburgh. Then after Edinburgh, I went away. I went to Europe and did a show called The 12 Tenors. I did the European tour of The 12 Tenors, which was basically 12 lads on a tour bus going around Europe drinking, doing a show. It was probably the most debaucherous few months of my life. It was just a messy time. I don't think I saved a penny from that tour because most of it, we used to finish the show, get on the tour bus, drink, get out, go walk through McDonald's, go back to our apartments, drink, get up. It was basically a very alcoholic time in my life, but was very fun, and I met some very lovely friends. And then, very randomly, I got back, and I was already booked to do the tour of Oklahoma. However, I came back on the 31st of December. My birthday is New Year's Day. And I don't remember this because I was very ill, as I told you. I probably had alcohol poisoning, but I was very ill on the Eurostar coming back. But I knew I had to go into town to meet my friends for New Year's Eve, otherwise they'd kill me. And I made it into town, although I felt absolutely rotten. Anyway, then I got a phone call. So then Oklahoma was due to start rehearsals at the end of February. So I knew I had 2 months off. Well, I was just kind of in a chill. And I got a phone call from a lovely lady called Tara Wilkinson. Now, Tara is a very good friend of mine. She was a performer years ago. She's... if you listen to the original Starlight Express recording, she's the voice of Control. This is Control. Sometimes she does it on the phone. It's very fun. It's like my go-to. I get her to do this Control voice. But she's now associate director on Come From Away in London, amongst many other shows. Motown. She looks after Motown, things like that. Anyway, she rang me and was like, what are you doing at the moment? I was like, I've just come back from Europe. I'm going away to Oklahoma. She said, cool. Do you reckon you might be able to squeeze this in? I was like, what is it? Silence of the Lambs, the musical. Oh. Now, let me tell you, if you've never heard the musical, you need to listen. The whole album is available on YouTube. And I mean, I'm not even going to tell you the titles of the songs, but it's a parody musical. And it's very, very funny. If you get offended easily, you will...
Yeah. Trust us, guys. Listen to it. Some of the song titles are...
I think I mean, it's just brilliant. Anyway.
If I could smell...
Like, correct, that's the one. So she asked me if I'd play Dr. Chilton, who's the guy who runs the asylum with the pen. And he sings a song called... do not touch the glass. Do not go near the glass. I can't remember some song. I had this song to sing, which was fun. But the great thing about that was Chris Gattelli, who is the Broadway choreographer of Newsies and also choreographed the production of King and I that's on tour at the moment and was at the Palladium and won many Tony Awards. he was directing it, and I was like, I'm absolutely going to do this job. Like, of course I am. I'm going to get to work with Chris Catelli. So I did Silence of the Lambs, a musical, at a very small theatre, which was built above a pub behind the Victoria Palace in Victoria. It's not there anymore. It's been knocked down. And the money was atrocious, but it just didn't matter because the show was great.
Yeah.
And I got to work with Chris Catelli. So that was really fun. And it was a really short run. It just basically filled in. I think I doubled up on rehearsals and the shows for like 10 days, but it worked out really well. So I did that. Then I did Oklahoma, which I really enjoyed because I covered Ali Hakim in that, and I went on loads. I remember the guy playing Ali Hakim had some heart problems, so he was off all the time, and he actually went off in Bradford, which was great. So I got to do about 3 or 4 shows as Ali Hakim in Bradford, which again was great because years and years ago, when I did Halifax Light Opera Society Juniors, they did a production of Oklahoma, and I wanted to audition for Ali Hakim. So I was like, this part's great. However, Catherine Beverley and the powers that be didn't have plans for that. They wanted me to play Will. So I ended up playing Will. And Catherine was like, you're just not an Ali Hakim. So then when I was playing Ali Hakim, I was like, right, well, Catherine, you've got to come and watch this now. So anyway, Catherine Beverley did come, and we had a lovely time. It was very nice. So, yeah, Oklahoma. Then I finished Oklahoma, and then what did I do then? What is that? Then I went and did the 12 Tenors again for Christmas, which was fun. Not as alcoholic this time. We just went to Istanbul. And then I did Les Mis in London, which was nice. So that was quite a long contract because the show had just done a 25th anniversary tour. They did the O2 concert version, and Cameron decided that he wanted to put the new orchestrations into the London production. So they closed the show in London for a couple of days while they extended the pit in order to fit the extra musicians in, and they put a new sound system in. So I got to join the cast, my cast with the new sound system and the new pit, and Two-Show Bo, I call him, Alfie Bo. We call him Two-Show Bo because he never used to come to work, so we used to just call him Two-Show Bo. So he used to do 2 days a week and just not come to shows the rest of the time. Was our Valjean, which is great. I had a lovely time on that. It was very, very long contract, and I was very done by the end of it. I was swing on it, so I covered all the parts. So I had to learn, I think it was 14 tracks, and towards the end of the contract in February is when the film started, and everybody in the show was offered something in the film, but then to do with people's holidays and people being ill and casting, and to do with shooting schedule changes and things. Some people then couldn't do their scenes, so it created a bit of animosity in the building, and some people were let go for a long amount of time, depending on what their scenes were, and the building just got a little bit toxic, and it wasn't a nice place to go to work while they were filming the film Les Mis. It was just a very, very weird time. But I had a good time, and yeah, I finished that. Then I did a show called The Fix. Again, a brilliant musical. If you've not listened to it, the music in The Fix is absolutely amazing. It's written by Dana P. Rowe, who wrote Witches of Eastwick. It's so good. Like, the music is amazing. If you're looking for a show to do, guys, The Fix is brilliant. So I did that in London for a few months, which was great. Then I went and did a European tour of Jesus Christ Superstar, which was like a dream come true for me. It's one of my dream shows. I've always wanted to do it. So the Jesus Christ Superstar, which was amazing. I had the best time on it. It was really fun. Came back from doing Jesus Christ Superstar, and then I did Scrooge at the Palladium, London Palladium, which was really fun at the Palladium. The Palladium's great. I don't think it's the same anymore, but back when I was doing Scrooge, the stage door of the Palladium and Drury Lane are 24 hours. So the in-house fireman mans the door 24 hours, which is fantastic if you're on a night out in London and you don't want to pay for a taxi. So we used to go into the dressing room and go to sleep in our dressing room, which was great. Definitely not allowed, but we used to do it all the time. It was fantastic. I had a little mattress under my place. So did that, which was really nice. Really lovely to work at the Palladium and be there for a long time doing a musical. Got to work with the lovely Tommy Steele, who actually I'd heard absolute horror stories about. There's obviously a lot of famous stories about Tommy Steele and Singing in the Rain and things like that. But he was absolutely lovely, like really, really lovely. For his birthday, he hired a boat on the Thames, and we all got on a boat, and it was a free bar and pie and mash and pie and peas and all of this. Although he did say he never came to warm up, and he came to warm up after one day, and he was like, right, guys, it's my birthday next week. I've hired the boat. It's on the Thames, right? It's leaving at 10:30. And then he was like, so all you wiggies and you wardrobe mistress, if you're not on the boat at 10:30, it's leaving without you, right? So wash fast. See you later. I went to his dressing room. I was like, fantastic, great. He's really lovely. And yeah, so I did Scrooge. And then, as I was coming towards the end of Scrooge, I got cast in Priscilla. No, not casting it. I was casting it before Scrooge. But I basically did Priscilla rehearsals whilst doing Scrooge for like 3 weeks, which absolutely killed me. Yeah. Honest to God. People who double up. I've got a friend of mine who doubled up on a show with Matilda, and I don't know how he did it. Matilda has a reputation of being one of the hardest shows rehearsal-wise. It's quite a grueling rehearsal process. So people who do double ups for a long time is very good. So yeah, I did Priscilla. So I did Priscilla for nearly 2 years, which was great. I had such a fun time on Priscilla. It was amazing. And again, I covered Bob.
Jason Donovan tour.
Yeah, Jason Donovan was in it. Yeah, it was. I mean, Jason's mental. I love him. He's absolutely crazy. He's on it. Honestly, he's on another planet. But he's one of the loveliest human beings in the world. Although on that job, I was the equity dep, and so I can see how much subscription to equity everyone's paying. And everybody normally pays equity dep. You're meant to base it on your salary, but no one really does. And everyone always pays like the lowest amount you can pay, which is like £160 a year or something. But Donovan's accountant, I was just thinking whether he minds me telling you this. I'm sure he doesn't mind me telling you this. So Donovan's accountant was paying the correct amount, which I think is like 10% of your earnings will go. And I saw this amount. I was like, oh my God. So I went into his dressing room. I was like, Tono, do you know you're paying this amount to equity? He was like, what? That's absolutely ridiculous. I want to ring my accountant. Fucking dick. You know, was kicking off. Anyway, bought me a lovely couple of bottles of Moët to say thank you, which was lovely. He was like, that money's to put my kids through college. It's not paid equity. It's amazing. Anyway, lovely Jason. Yeah. But yeah, Priscilla,
if we can't have that story, I'll just block it out. I'll just put like a
he'll be fine. Yeah. No, he's fine, Donovan. He's really good. And actually, it was really nice to do that original production of Priscilla. And I genuinely thought I was going to hate it, but I had one of the best times with the best group of people. It was honestly like one of my favorite jobs. Yeah. So yeah, then what happened? Finished Priscilla, and then Priscilla finished at a weird time. So Priscilla finished around. Oh, I've got low battery. Hold on. Stay there. Let me get my charger. I'll be back. Priscilla finished. Priscilla finished. A really weird time. So it finished in September. When did it finish? No, I'm absolutely lying. It didn't finish a weird time. Priscilla finished in the April, and I went back to Edinburgh and did a musical play called The Outback Games, which was about a group of people from Australia living in the outback who form part of a amateur dramatic society. But one of the members is a keen swimmer and wants to go to the 1939 Berlin Olympics. And because the Olympics get cancelled because of the war, they decide they're going to throw their own Olympics and invite all the athletes to the Outback Games. Oh God, it was awful. It was absolutely awful. Yeah, to be honest with you, I mean, the breakdown for the job was like looking for Australian natives. I think there was one Australian native in. I think I only got the job because my Australian accent was good because I'd just been doing Priscilla for nearly 2 years. Yeah. So anyway, that was pretty terrible. So don't do that musical. But yeah, it's not very good. Sorry, the guy who wrote it, if you're listening or watching this. But it was pretty terrible. He had a song called Foibles. I was like, most people can't even say foibles. No one knows what it means. Like, what a weird song title. Very weird. Anyway, then I got offered panto in Wakefield, which was great. I absolutely bit the casting director's hand off for it because I get to be in Wakefield for Christmas, which means I could see my nan in Halifax and actually be at home for Christmas, which is like the dream come true. So I went to Wakefield and did Beauty and the Beast, which was amazing. Although the mask, I had a reaction to the mask and I got cluster migraines and my eyes swelled up. And one morning I couldn't open my eyes. So I spent the majority of the morning in Halifax General Hospital because I just couldn't open my eyes and I had cluster migraine. That bit wasn't fun, but the job was fun. And then I got cast in High Society at the Old Vic, which was like I was like, yes, oh my God, I'm going to get to, like, every performer wants to do a show at the Old Vic. It's like one of the places to work. It was also going to be the last show that was part of Kevin Spacey's tenure as artistic director. So Kevin Spacey was going to be around a lot, which, probably not a good thing, but he was there. He never tried it on with me, guys. So, maybe he just fancy me or something. But
touchy subject.
Yeah.
We'll cut that joke out.
Cut that one out. So then we, did High Society at the Old Vic, which was great. It was really fun. It was easy to get to work because it's on the Cut, which is south of the river, and I live in South London, so it was really good, easy to get to. I had such a great time. It was such a fun show. The show was in the round, so the audience were like there. The guy Arthur Kopit, who wrote the book to High Society, flew over to help us amend it because Maria Friedman, who directed it, wasn't happy with the structure, so she wanted to change the structure around. So we changed it because she was like, all of Act 1 is building up to this party, and then Act 2 starts and the party's ended. She was like, where is the party? She went, as an audience member, I want to go to the party. So we created this scene at the beginning of Act 2, which was the party. It was like a 25, 30-minute scene with a 12-minute dance break in, which was this party scene, and it was so fun. And nearly the first time we danced the routine upstairs in the studios, I was nearly sick. I had to run outside because I thought I was going to be sick because it was so hard. But by the time we opened, the stamina was there and it was fine. I mean, if I tried to do it now, I genuinely would die because I'm so unfit. But it was really fun. So yeah, I finished High Society, and then I did a little workshop of a show for Perfect Pitch, which is a company, Aria Entertainment, which is Katie Lipson. Basically grabs musicals now and again, once a year. She workshops them and puts them on, just to give them a life, which is great. So the ones we did weren't particularly great, but we did one which was about racism in football. I had some very racist lines to shout out. It was about a guy called Walter. Can't remember his surname. It's definitely not Walter White. That's Breaking Bad. Yeah. Walter something. Anyway, he was the first black footballer who went to the World War as an officer. And yeah, it was about that. That wasn't very great. Then I did Billy Elliot. I got cast in Billy Elliot, which is the longest rehearsal process ever. We started rehearsals for Billy Elliot in December, last week of November, I think. And we didn't open the show until April. And the rehearsals were 10 till 10, nearly apart from Sundays. It was
were you rehearsing
hideous.
For that long? Jesus.
The problem is with the show is that, so the kids go to Billy school, so they start rehearsing in May, but the year before they're meant to start, to train them up. And then we had 3 teams of ballet girls, and then 3 Billies to start with, and 3 Michaels. So you have to, when you run the show, when you're rehearsing everything, you have to rehearse. So we had to, like for instance, Solidarity. We'd rehearse Solidarity without the kids there. The kids would rehearse Solidarity without us there. Then we'd amalgamate Solidarity together with one kid scene. Then we'd have to do it with the next kid team, and then the 3rd ballet girls, because the ballet girls would come up and they would do 1 week on the show, 2 weeks off the show, and they'd travel back down to London. So the ballet girls were changing every Monday. And it was weird, like ballet girls, when we started rehearsals, I started that job in November 2015, and I finished it in July 2017. So it was quite a big part. But these ballet girls obviously grow a lot. So we started off with ballet girls who were like this big, and by the time we finished the show, they were like up here. It was crazy. But no, we had to tech everything so many times. We had to do 3 different dress rehearsals for 3 different Billies. And it actually just takes a long time to rehearse it. There's so many chairs. When you watch the show, all the chairs look the same because the set is built in perspective.
Yeah.
But actually what happens is that the further upstage you get, the smaller the chairs get. So the chair upstage is actually like probably about that far off the ground, whereas the chair far downstage is about this, like probably this far off the ground. Which is why in Grandma's song, when we're lifting the chairs over our heads, if you're downstage, like I was the first person downstage, so my chair is super heavy because it's one of the biggest chairs. The guy at the back's just like, because his chair is really, really light because it's tiny. But they're all numbered. They've got a little number on. And the kids are trained, like regimentally trained, because you can't put a chair in the wrong place because then the perspective won't look right. And obviously in Solidarity, the chairs are all over. If a kid goes to grab a chair and the chair is the wrong number, they just won't grab the chair. So suddenly you'll be doing Solidarity and there'll just be a chair in the middle of the stage. You're like, why the hell is there a chair in the middle of the stage? And there's just one person going like, I'm one with no chair. It's very funny. Yeah, Billy Elliot. That was fun. Then I went to Germany and did Jekyll and Hyde, which was again a show I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to do Jekyll and Hyde. I wanted to play Utterson because I love the quartet that he sings. And I was in Germany when they announced Billy Elliot. When we finished the show in the UK, we took Billy Elliot to Hamburg. So we went to Hamburg to sit down in Hamburg for I think 3 months. And while we were there, I'd heard that there's a theatre in Frankfurt called the English Theatre Frankfurt, and they do one musical a year, and it's normally quite a big musical, and it gets a lot of press. It's a really good thing to do. And so I rang my agent and said, they're doing Jekyll and Hyde. I really want to I want to audition. And she was like, I'll ring the cast director. The casting director was like, we're not taking self-tapes because I couldn't fly back. So I was a bit gutted. Anyway, randomly, they said, can you do a self-tape? I was like, yeah. They were like, just sing anything from the show. And I had sung Confrontation for my drama school audition, so I knew it. So in my hotel room in Hamburg, I got my coffee table, an ironing board, and I tried to balance my iPad on it so I could do this horrific self-tape of me in my hotel room singing Confrontation from Jekyll and Hyde. Anyway, they gave me a final audition. So when I got back to London, I auditioned, they gave me the job, which was great. So then I did Jekyll and Hyde in Frankfurt so I went in September and came back middle of May, I think, which was really fun. Yeah. I just love Jekyll and Hyde. The score it's just one of my favourite scores ever. Although I will say, is it light opera or Hattie? No, amateurs. Are they doing
Chaos? They've got the rights to it, but I doubt it's going to happen.
No, but also they could have had Ragtime, guys. I can't believe you all voted for bloody Jekyll and Hyde. Ragtime has like 500 parts in and is one of the most beautiful scores ever written. And you chose Jekyll and Hyde, which is great. I love Jekyll and Hyde, but Ragtime is amazing. Anyway, that's my my spiel about that one.
I'll edit that little rant there and put it on the Chaos page.
Yeah, run that off. And then, what did I do then? Then I got cast in Dr. Dolittle. Very random.
So tell us about Dr. Dolittle, because obviously that was a tour that got cut short.
Yeah, so Dr. Dolittle was a funny one. So I heard they were doing it, and I was like, that is a weird musical to do. And the producers of it are music and lyrics. So they were co-producers on the Addams Family tour that happened last year and is happening again later this year, hopefully. And also they produced Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. And I was like, okay, very random thing for them to do, but okay, don't know how they're going to do it, because obviously the last time it was done, it was Jim Henson who did all of the puppets and things.
Philip Schofield in London.
Yeah. And then they did a tour of it. When I was doing South Pacific, actually, they did a tour of it with
Tommy Steele, wasn't it?
Tommy Steele, yeah, Tommy Steele.
Because I saw it in Bradford, and I remember being young, and I still went, oh, this is...
Yeah, so I think it basically was a bit dated. So the producers basically, fair enough, they had a good idea that they got Christopher Renshaw on board, who directed Taboo in London. I think he got nominated for a Tony Award for Taboo as well, to direct it. They got Josh Rhodes to choreograph it, who's a beautiful choreographer. He choreographed Carousel. He's American. He choreographed Carousel at the ENO, and it was absolutely stunning. And Mike Dixon, who's like musical director royalty, to be the musical supervisor, and Leslie Brickus, who obviously wrote it and also wrote the lyrics to Jekyll and Hyde. They got him on board to kind of rewrite it and do new bits. And their premise was that they would get the people who do all the Warhorse puppets and stuff, they were going to go with them to kind of come up with these puppets, and it was all going to be in the style of Warhorse and all. This is how it was sold to us guys on day one, and anyway. Then, yeah, so Dr. Dolittle, and I was on my way to the car. I was in the car park on my way to the cinema, and my agent rang me and said, they've offered you Dr. Dolittle, and they want you to be first cover, so understudy Dr. Dolittle. And I was like, well, I'm not going to say no. It's the title role, and it's, I'm not going to turn this down. It's going to be great. And then obviously in rehearsals, we had 7 weeks rehearsals, and which was great, by the way, because the rehearsals were a 5-minute walk away from my house, which was absolutely amazing. So yeah, in rehearsals, they kind of told us what the premise was, and I was like, oh, that's going to be really good. And then they showed the model box, and I was like, where's the set? What is these Hamilton-like structures? This is such a weird set design. And the setup that Tom Piper, who did the design, had gone for, he's a lovely designer. I just don't think what he wanted landed. He wanted all this bland stuff, and so that all the costumes would really bland, so that the Doctor's costume would be pastel, and so that the puppets would jump off the stage because they'd be colourful.
Yeah.
But actually, all that happened is that when you came, you were like, there's nothing on stage apart from this life-size dog, which actually, if you're sitting upstairs at the Lowry, doesn't look like a dog. It looks like a teddy bear because it's so small. A kid who's sitting upstairs is not going to see the definition of a dog looking because it's so small. Anyway, yeah, it was a weird one. I think the problem with it, so the design wasn't great, and Mark Williams, who played the Doctor, who's, really lovely man, great on TV, can't remember his lines, and just generally couldn't remember the part. He just couldn't remember the part. He's not musical. I had a bit of a nightmare because I had my rehearsal with all the songs for the Doctor, and then I'd be sitting during like a run through, and I'd be like, this is weird. It's in a different key. It's in a completely different key. So I have to go up to the musical supervisor and be like, have you changed the key of this song? Because this is not the key that. And he was like, oh yeah, sorry, yeah, we've taken everything down. So everything was getting lower and lower. We got to a point. I was like, I don't think I can sing this in this key. It's so low, because he was speaking a lot of it, a bit like Rex Harrison did. But they decided that he joined rehearsals late, and after day one of his rehearsals, they had a slot offered to go on this morning, and they took it when they shouldn't, because obviously Philip Schofield's there. He's done the show. He was very good in the show, and he'd not had any musical practice on it. He'd not had any rehearsals musically, so musically it was going to be a mess. They didn't have the costumes for the puppeteers they were using, so they had the pig there and the dog and the rabbit, but they didn't have the beige costumes, which was a design. So everyone was in like beige trousers with a beige shirt, braces, and a beige cap. So they put everybody in black, so they looked like ninjas with these puppets, and put it on this morning, and it is terrible. Like, if you watch it, it's awful. They played it in rehearsals when we were rehearsing, and I nearly spat my coffee out because I was like, that is terrible. No one is going to book a ticket for this show.
There go our ticket sales.
If that's what you're getting. And then, so we did a few weeks in London, performance-wise, which was great. And then we went up to Manchester for Christmas. So I think we were there for 6 weeks at Christmas, where actually ticket sales were okay. It wasn't super sold out. It wasn't quiet. It was busy. It was a sold show. It sold a lot better than Spongebob Squarepants did at the Lowry. I'll tell you that one. And then the producer came to speak to us. We called a company meeting in Manchester and said, because we were meant to do the show until, this was in we finished in Manchester in January. We were meant to do the show until like December. And he basically said to us, oh, guys, the tills are ringing. We're doing so much business. It's going to be great. And in my head, it was like, this we are not doing very great. Like, this isn't, I can look out and see that I know your running costs on the show are astronomical. And you'll be very lucky if you're breaking even at the moment. And we then had a week off and we were due to come back to Oxford a week later. So I went to New York for the week. And one morning I woke up and I had about 300 WhatsApp messages. And my first thought was, who the hell has died? Like, what has happened? Why have I don't get 300 WhatsApp messages through the night? What is going on? And basically they'd announced to agents in the morning, then the press, that the show was closing. But obviously, because I was like 5 hours behind everybody in New York, it all happened before. When I woke up at like 9 o'clock and it was 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, so everyone already knew. So everyone was messaging me about it. So then we went to Oxford and we did 2 final weeks in Oxford, which was very weird because no one wanted to be there. And I don't imagine those shows in Oxford were very good. They weren't very good shows anyway, so I don't imagine they were even better in Oxford. It's because everybody just had a lot of animosity towards the producer because they didn't think they'd handled the situation very well. And the warning signs that were there and very evidently there in rehearsals were never addressed. And because of that, and this morning, obviously, which was a terrible decision, Dr. Dolittle was no more.
Well, I have a feeling it won't be coming up again for a long time unless Styles and Drew decide to rewrite it, as they always do.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be coming around for a long time. Yeah. And I think Leslie Bricusse has had enough of it. Who's very lovely, by the way. Leslie's very... I actually decided that I've actually done more Leslie Bricusse shows than any other shows, so I'm basically like the Leslie Bricusse boy, which is very weird. So yeah, and then I got back and I was sitting on my bed having a lazy day. I was like, I'm just going to sit on my bed today. My agent rang me. It's like, can you get into town for the next hour? I was like, what? They were like, yeah, they're doing a production of Maggie May, which is a forgotten Lionel Bart show. They want to see you for one of the roles in it. So I basically threw my clothes on, got into London with a folder full of music, and they were like, they'd asked everybody to prepare a pre-1960s song by an English composer, which is very specific. And I just went in and I was like, guys, you called me an hour ago, like, this is what I've got. So I did that, read some sides, and then I got the job, which was great. So then I did Maggie May. And then, whilst doing Maggie May, Dr. Dolittle kind of annoyed me a bit with performing. I was a bit like, I was going to chill for a bit. So I did Maggie May, and then alongside doing performing work, I worked a lot in casting and doing a lot of casting for things. And I got offered this job being head of casting for a really good company. And I was like, this is a bit of a once in a lifetime job offer here. I'm going to take it. And you know what? If I do it for 2 years and I don't enjoy it, I'll go back to performing. But at the moment, I'm ready to just have my evenings, have my weekends, have my bank holidays. I'm still working theatre, but not performing. Actually, I've been doing that for the last year, and I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, so that sort of brings us on to when you were talking about all the shows and stuff, you sort of covered quite a lot of the questions. So
I've just been chatting, haven't I?
It's like question 2. That's last one I asked. We're down here now.
Oh my God, brilliant!
Yeah, so
I've just thought of a story. Actually, I've got a funny story to tell you because I think I need to share this story. So I got in trouble for this. So when I was doing Les Mis, Matt Lucas was Thénardier, and he really, really wanted to sing the warnings. Now, the warnings in the show are the bit that go, you at the barricade, listen to this, no one is coming to help you to fight, you're on your own, you have no friends, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So that's normally sung by one of the swings who isn't on that night, which would normally be me. So normally I'd go to warm up, go to my dressing room, turn my Xbox on and play Guitar Hero until I hear On My Own, go downstairs, sing the warnings, play Guitar Hero, go home. Hopefully no one gets ill. If someone goes ill, I go and do their show. I go and do their track, whatever. And Matt Lucas was really, because Thénardier is not in the barricade. So he was like, I really want to sing the warnings because he loves the show. And he asked the MD, and the MD, who I won't name, but he's a bit of an arsehole. He was like, you're not doing it. You're not doing it. You're not doing it. You're not doing it. So he wouldn't let him do it. And Matt was willing to rehearse it. Anyway, so on our last day, my phone goes. And now Matt had left the show. The end of contract. And I'd sit again. He just rings me and he said,
oh, losing you a bit.
Oh. Today.
Losing you a bit. You're going a bit. Oh, we've lost you. Oh,
is this any?
I can hear you. I can hear you. Yeah, still frozen. Hello.
Can you hear me?
Oh, just about there. Nope.
Is that good?
Just keep talking, see how it goes.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J.
Yeah, it's popping in and out there.
Element of P, Q, R, S. Oh, that's weird.
Yeah.
Should I log out and log back in, see if that works?
Yeah. But on the plus side, we found the opening credit bit. Oh, no, there you are.
Is it working?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay.
There we go. So Matt Lucas.
All right. So where did I get up to? The warnings. So yeah. So he wants to do the warnings. So he rings me up. So he'd left the show 6 months before us, and I'd already decided that I was going to dress up as I was going to get one of the girls' costumes, and I was going to do Lovely Ladies as a girl. So that was like my last matinee gag. And Matt rang me and he said, I want to do the warnings. I was like, Matt, you can't do the warnings. Like, he's not even in the building. So he was like, could you open a fire exit for me at the side of the building, which comes backstage? And then, because I was meant to be doing the warnings. And he said, and if you get there just a little bit late, I'll be in the sound booth with the headphones on, ready to do the warnings. And I was like, fucking hell, okay. So I kind of leant on the fire exit at the top of Act 2, went upstairs, waited till the last possible moment, went down to the sound booth, and Matt's there with the headphones on, with the monitor, with the microphone. And I was like, oh my God. Anyway, the MD points at the camera for you to go, and Matt got about 2 bars out of the music.
Oh.
And it was a mess. And I was just like, and you could see the MD was conducting, and he picks the phone up because he's got a phone to speak to the DSM, and he's screaming down the phone like this. And I was like, oh my God. Matt then just disappeared off out of a fire exit. I went upstairs and I was like, oh God. Anyway, company manager come knocking on my door. What the hell was that? I was like, listen, I got down there. Matt was there in the sound booth. Like, what am I meant to do? I can't drag him out the sound booth. And so I got into trouble for it.
Gosh.
Anyway, that's my story for that.
But we'll have to tag Matt Lucas in this, see if he watches it.
Yeah, tell him. I'll tell him to watch it. So, yeah, that's Matt's story. What was it to? Yeah, I've literally just spoken at you for an hour. I hope that's okay.
Yeah, it pads it out a bit. So
yeah.
So you've more or less covered quite a few things, so like backstage dramas, like funny stories. And now you work as a casting director as well now. So can you tell us a bit about that process and what goes on?
The process?
Yeah. What do you look for in a performer?
Yes, it all varies really from job to job. I think the process is, you know, I'll sit down with the general management who'll tell me what the budget is for a casting process, and in that budget, obviously, I've got to, you know, find a studio, printing, find an audition pianist, find a runner, just things like that. When they want to do it, the dates and work the dates out. Once all the basics are done, I then write there's a lot of actors work off a website called Spotlight.
Oh,
So on Spotlight is where all jobs are listed. So I'll put an advert on Spotlight and send that to either a select group of agents who I know, who I trust, or I'll put it on so everyone can see it. And then people can submit their CVs. And while people are submitting their CVs, I'll also go through people who I know, who I think are good and who are right, and speak to their agents, see if they're available. Go through the CVs, whittle it down to a shortlist, then book everyone in for an audition, send them material, and then the director comes in and we sit and audition people until we find the people who we want. Hopefully that process is done the first time round, but sometimes you have to do the process over and over and over. It's a grueling process, but it's also very rewarding when you find someone who is, you know, absolutely amazing, who just probably hasn't had an opportunity, and you've just found someone. That's a really rewarding feeling. But it's strange. So I do auditions in New York as well. And I went to New York to hold some auditions, and Americans are weird. Like, they just, like, it's a completely different entity to them. They, like, some people don't turn up because they're busy, or some people just turn up and you've not invited them and they'll just try and wing something. Some people's headshots are like 55 years old because they still want to look young, and they'll stab you in the neck to get a job. It's such a weird, America's like, blew my mind. But it's fun, it's good. I enjoy auditioning there, actually.
I think one of the last times I saw you, when you were last up, you'd just gone to New York, or just got back. So, yeah,
it was good.
What was it you said? Beetlejuice.
Beetlejuice, yeah. I mean, I love the film. I enjoyed the musical. It's a weird musical. Very weird. And the girl playing the young girl part is gonna have serious vocal problems in about 4 years because the technique is atrocious. I don't know how she sings like that every night. She must be dying. But the musical itself is very good. I really enjoy it. It's not the same story as the film, but everything that you want to see from the film is in the musical, which is amazing.
Because I was looking it up, and like all backstage sort of stuff about it, and they said we thought it'd be better to do like basically a fan fiction of Beetlejuice on stage, because replicating shows didn't really work. It's just the bog standard, so they'd rather.
Yeah, I think they've done that really well with Beetlejuice. Yeah, it is original, but also, you know, as someone who loves the film and loved it growing up, everything you still want to be in there is in there, and all the characters are there, and I really, really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was great. I had such a fun time. Although I was annoyed because I didn't realise a Little Shop of Horrors was on as well. I would have gone to watch that.
Oh, with who's it? Christian Ball.
Yeah. But I didn't even know it was on because it was in such a small theatre. I was working, so my brain wasn't there.
I know last time I saw it, Back to the Future.
Back to the Future?
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought it was great. I think it needed trimming up and tidying a bit, but it's very good.
Because I saw it again about a week or so later, about 2 weeks later, and they trimmed it up a lot. There was still a show.
Oh, great.
Unfortunately, but like they tightened a lot of stuff up. They changed some stuff, like the going back sequence. Instead of just flicking between the two, like Doc is swept across the stage with the projection. Then we went back to Marty. Then it went back to Doc. He finished off, and they did it like that.
Oh, great!
It just worked brilliantly.
I've got a friend of mine in Back to the Future. This is quite a funny story. So my friend Emma's in Back to the Future, and she has a reputation. We call her the Curse because every show she does closes early. So she was doing Thoroughly Modern Millie, and it closed. Like, they all got to Bradford and all of their stuff was still on the trucks because the producers hadn't paid the haulage company, so they couldn't get their belongings back, and the show closed. And then she did Dr. Dolittle, and Dr. Dolittle closed. And then pretty much after Dr. Dolittle, she got Back to the Future, And we were in the pub, and she was like, "Oh my God, finally, guys, this show's going to run. It's not going to close. I'm really thrilled." And then obviously because of coronavirus, the show closed, and she was like, "I'm cursed. I'm just cursed, guys. I'm just cursed." I was like, "Yeah, I'm making sure I never do a musical again. Yeah, it just closes."
Because what I thought Back to the Future did really well is, like, they only changed a couple of things, like the slightest things, and they focused on the special effects, which, like the DeLorean's first entrance, I'm sure you'll agree, was just what did that come from?
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, have you worked out how that's done? Because once you know, it's not very exciting.
Yeah, I worked it out straight away. I was like, oh,
I was like, "Well, that's so good," and then I started thinking about it, and then I asked my friend, and I was like, "Well, that's not as exciting anymore. I actually wish I didn't know."
I won't release.
It's also really simple.
Yeah,
no,
really
simple.
simple.
I was like, "Oh." Anyway, it's the same with Ghost. I remember watching Ghost, and I was like, "Oh my God, that's amazing."
Oh, the door effect.
And then I went and watched it again
Ghost.
from a different. I was on a different angle, and I was like, "Oh, this looks rubbish from this angle. You need to be at a specific angle to see it correctly."
Because we did it with Chaos, like when it first got released, and I think we spent about 500 quid just on, if not more, just on that effect. It's about a minute.
Oh my God.
Minute's worth of the show.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Pepper's Ghost.
Hey, it's classic. It's good enough for Disneyland Paris. You know what I mean? It's good enough for everything.
Haunted Mansion.
It's great. Mate, I love that. I love that ride.
Oh yeah. I think my favourite is Big Thunder Mountain.
Mate, I was in Disneyland, not the last time I went, but the time before, and I had my phone and my girlfriend's phone in my pocket, and we went on Big Thunder Mountain, and I got off, and they'd both fallen out of my pocket.
Oh.
Both phones. Right? And I was mortified. I was like, "Oh my God." I wasn't bothered about the phone. I was annoyed because we'd been there 3 days, and it was like the last day, so all the photos were on there. And it was both our phones. It wasn't like it was one of our phones. Anyway, so I was trying to talk to this woman in my very pigeon French, and she was like, no. Anyway, as I was walking away, they found them. They were in the footwell of the train, and the train had gone and done another 2 circuits or something and come back, and they found them in the footwell. I was like, that is so lucky.
Yeah.
Thank God it doesn't go upside down.
Yeah. But sorry. Anyway, podcast. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Sorry. So yeah, just the final question of this. Do you have any advice for anyone looking to get into acting, like professional acting?
Yeah, I think the main thing is just, be real with yourself, know what you want to do in terms of, if you do want to do TV, go to a drama school, like go to like Rada or somewhere. Just not because the acting, you're going to come out a better actor. I don't believe that. I think if you're going to act, you're going to, the skills are going to develop wherever you go. But the opportunities will be easily available to you if you go to the correct school, because the correct agents go to the correct showcases for the correct jobs, for what job you want. So I think just do a little bit of research in that department, and drama school's definite. I think, even if you've been somewhere, a 1-year course like London School of Musical Theatre do a really good 1-year course. A lot of agents go there and people work out of there. Unfortunately, it is very, very difficult to work without an agent, and the best way to get an agent is through drama school. Obviously, you could get an agent by writing somewhere. It's just going to be a lot more difficult. It's going to be a lot harder for you to obtain that agent. The agent, as much as the agent is negotiating contracts, the main thing you're getting with your agent is the contacts, the casting directors they know, the people who they hang around with. It's a very, very small industry. Everybody knows everybody. So I think, drama school is a must if you want to do it, and just accept that, it is hard work. Sometimes there's a lot of rejections. I've sat here tonight and told you about the shows I've done, and luckily, touch wood, everything did land back to back and landed correctly. However, I've not told you about all the auditions that I've been to, that I had jobs I haven't got, because it's very boring. But for every job that I've got, I've probably not got 10. So, that's just how it is. And it just becomes part and parcel of the job that you go to an audition, forget about the audition. And if you get the job, you get the job. And if you don't, you don't. It's having that mentality, and been able to go in a room, do your best and come out without thinking about it, without dwelling on it, without looking at your phone and waiting for your agent to call you or anything like that, and just be like, you know what, that's done. I'll put that away. If something comes from it, great. If nothing comes from it, great. Like that is just how it is. And a lot of people find that very difficult. I know a lot of performers find the rejection side very hard, and it is hard. But you can't care too much. You've just got to just enjoy your life, guys, and just accept that what is for you will not pass you by. I always, I truly believe that. If I'd taken 7 Brides, 7 Brothers, I wouldn't have been able to do Spongebob Squarepants the musical, which was, a dodgy historical time in my life.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's it.
That's a really good answer. So thank you for joining in on this episode. I know it's been a long one, but it's been brilliant listening to your stories.
Sorry, I just talk, guys. I'm sorry. I'm just chatting away.
But that was
I'm in lockdown as well. I've got no... Goodbye.
Yeah.